Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul, joined by Robert Ziggy Ziegler up at Harvard University for a Lions and Eagles Week 11 preview. Sunday Night Football, game of the week, no doubt about it. The Eagles are 7-2. They're leading the NFC, facing off with the 6-3 Lions, coming off just an absolute ass whooping of the Washington Commanders in a game where Dan Campbell took over play calling from Johnny Morton. The Lions go on to have their most yards of the season, most rushing yards of the season. Jameson Williams has his best game of the year. Jahmyr Gibbs, arguably his best game of the year. How much of that is it because of Campbell taking over? I'm not sure. The Washington defense has been terrible this season, so we'll see if they can carry that momentum into Philly against a really good Philly defense who just held the Packers to 7 points on the road on Monday Night Football. It's just a great matchup. It's a matchup that last year, even though the Vikings were in that pack with those two teams, right? 14, 15 wins. It felt like they were the two all season who were destined to meet in the NFC Championship game. And I was actually looking forward to it. I was really looking forward to the game. Obviously, I wanted the Vikings to be there, but once we were eliminated, thought it would be great. The Lions have all those injuries on defense. Felt like we were robbed a bit as football fans of that matchup, but Detroit fans had to have been. And it was a little funny, right? The NFC North guys, we can't really root for the Lions. But God, the Eagles also suck. Lions fans have to feel a little robbed from missing that game as well last season. But here they go. Then they have the opportunity to win over the tiebreaker, and if Detroit wins the division, this game will be really important as far as seeding in the NFC playoffs. The Eagles opened this one up as 2.5-point favorites. Ziggy, your initial impression of this one? Give me. You could start either side of the ball. What are you paying attention to?
The number one thing I'm paying attention to is the Eagles pass rush. The Eagles pass rush this year has been their biggest weakness on defense. And while their secondary has been very, very good, obviously Cooper DeJean is very good. Like, they've got a strong secondary. They're not giving up a lot of completions. They called Brandon Graham out of retirement. Obviously, they traded for Jalen Phillips too. They're trying to restock. But if you give Jared Goff in this offense for the Lions time in the pocket, whether or not Jahmyr Gibbs is going, the worst thing you can do against the Detroit Lions is give Jared Goff time, because it doesn't matter how good your secondary is. He will always find somebody open if you give him 3 or 4 seconds to throw. Right? Why were the Vikings able to beat the Lions a couple of weeks ago? Why did the Lions have one of their worst games on offense? Obviously, our run defense helped. But we also hit Jared Goff. We got several sacks. Yep. He's not usually a player that takes those. The Eagles have a lot of reputation on their defensive line, but like Hunt, Uche, Johnson, they've combined for 4 sacks. The interior defensive line has been pretty good for the Eagles, so like maybe that's where they can get production. But I want to see if Jared Goff gets time, because if he does, at this point, there's no point even saying it, because if you're a real NFL fan, Jared Goff with time is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely without a doubt. It's how many times have we seen just in Vikings Lions games where Goff, it feels like he has 15, 20 completions in a row. And I might not even be exaggerating. He may have done that a couple times against us. He's absurdly accurate, has a plethora of weapons around him that are as good as any in the league. And if you're not in his grill, he's going to pick you apart. I think you could circle really that entire D-line versus O-line matchup. And how it often feels
especially the interior.
Yeah, it often feels like it comes down to that. But the Lions right now, Glasgow has not been great at center. Ratledge has had ups and downs as a rookie at right guard, and now you're playing with a backup left guard with Christian Mahogany on IR. Then you mentioned, who's Philly's best player on defense? Jalen Carter, right there in the interior. Jordan Davis has also been great, or has been good. But your best player there is going up against some guys who have struggled. And we'll see if Jalen Carter can have a monster day, the impact he can have up the middle there, whether it's forcing pressure or being able to slow down Montgomery and Gibbs in this one.
But is it a coincidence that Javon Hargrave had his most productive game as a Viking against the Lions?
No, and that was a key area they were focusing on. And Campbell applauded the bounce back from the line against Washington. But the Vikings D line The Vikings D-line's a lot better than the Commanders D-line right now, especially when everyone's back from injury. Eagles have I would also say Philly's closer to Minnesota's level than they are Washington, even with all the soul searching they've had to do, and they've gone out, as you said, and got Phillips, who is unbelievable in his debut. He had 6 tackles, tackle for loss, forced fumble, and he recovered Nakobe Dean's fumble that he forced as well to prevent Packers points on a drive. Like, he was great in his debut, and it's another one of those, how the hell did Howie Roseman pull this off kind of a thing. But we'll see if he's going to be a big enough impact down the road here to give Philly the jolt that they need defensively. So yeah, I'm paying attention to all of that along the lines. Do the Lions continue their bounce back, or can Philly, with a little boost here, be able to slow them down a bit? Because as you said, their secondary with Mitchell and DeJean, 3rd lowest completion percentage in football, 10th fewest yards per game given up. They are elite on the boundary. Flip it to the other side, Ziggy. I feel like I've been talking for a while. What's your number one matchup, the Eagles offense versus Lions defense?
It feels tough to say some of the same things, but I'll say it anyway, because the Eagles are an exceptionally healthy team. Almost all of their starters are healthy and ready to play.
Yep.
There's really only 2 significant injuries to keep an eye on: Cam Jurgens and Lane Johnson. Where do both those guys play?
I think Jurgens is going to be out.
Is he ruled out?
Is he even practiced this week?
I don't think so. So let's say he doesn't play.
Yeah.
Lane Johnson, I know he came back and played, but sometimes those ankle injuries are worse the next day. Regardless, I doubt he's 100%. The Eagles' offensive line is about the only place that hurts. And we saw how against the Packers, how hesitant the Eagles were to throw the ball. Everybody's going to remember that 44-yard bomb to Devontae Smith, and they absolutely should. That was a great pass. That was the only deep shot the Eagles really tried all game long. They were happy to run on 3rd and 12 in the red zone.
I'm thinking the 4th and 6th.
Yeah, okay. They tried a couple, but they did not go for the deep pass very often. They didn't go for passing in general very often. They tried to grind it out on the ground. If you can force the Eagles to pass, things get bad for this Eagles offense. That's how the Giants were able to beat them a little while ago, right? The Eagles are a team that wants to run the ball, that wants to grind things out, that just doesn't have a lot of trust in Jalen Hurts. Whether that's fair or not, I don't know, but that's just how the play calling is. You have got to force the Eagles to start passing the ball. And that means with a weakened offensive line, you've got to win up front. I'm watching Aleem McNeil. I know he wasn't in for a lot of snaps last game, but I think he could be a real impact player here. Detroit they need to stop Saquon Barkley. And if you do, everything else falls into place. Yeah,
Saquon hasn't been quite the version of Saquon that we saw last year. Honestly, not really particularly close, but he's still good for a couple. I mean, he's still great, but he'll still have some very high impact plays per game. Against Green Bay, he had the little swing pass that set up the Devontae Smith touchdown. That went for like 60 yards or something like that, or 50 yards, where he had the unbelievable spin move on Carrington Valentine. It is so much fun to watch Saquon Barkley play football. But yeah, I just want to go off 2 things you said. Lane Johnson is a huge factor because he's going to be the guy blocking Aiden Hutchinson. And if you swap him out for his backup, Hutchinson's going to have a field day. Like you can see the moment Lane Johnson left, the moment he re-entered the game, the impact that it makes. Philly's record, I don't remember what they said, but Philly with and without him, very, very different offensively and what they can do and how long they can, let Jalen Hurts, when Jalen Hurts is back there and you give him time, he can get dangerous because of his legs as well. And he's able to scan the field and see what's open. But it is bizarre, isn't it? How they approach Hurts when you have the 3rd and 12 in Green Bay territory and you just settle for a field goal. Then at the end of the game, it's 4th and 6 and you're like, okay, now let's let it rip. It's like, what do they really think of this guy? And you have to trust him at some point. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. That was a weird Monday Night Football game, and I don't know, that was bizarre. Where I'm actually paying attention to, Ziggy, beyond that, Lions have this really banged up secondary. Terry Arnold is still in concussion protocol, I'm pretty sure. If that's wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure he's still in concussion protocol. On the outside, this is where all the drama is with Philly, with A.J. Brown. who had his lowest snap count percentage of the season against the Packers. It's the lowest he's had in the game. I think he was on the field for 78% of snaps, the lowest he's had since week 10 of last year in a game where the Eagles pulled their starters. He has just not been a part of their offense at all. 2 targets before the final play of the game, 4th and 6 that we were talking about. Like Devontae Smith has taken over as the number 1. But if there were a spot to get both these guys going, it really might be this game. If you can hold up front with the way that the Lions are hurting at cornerback. AJ Brown might not be having a great year, but he's still AJ Brown. And I can see this being a game, prime time. If they're going to try and get him involved, seems like a good spot for him and Devontae to put up some big numbers if the Eagles' offensive line can hold up. Would you agree with that?
I'm inclined to agree, and this is a game that the line opened over under 49 and is now all the way down to 46.5. I'm still not sure it's going to go over that.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they'll explode. I just mean, I think that they can get involved and be a part of the game. Like AJ Brown needs to be a part of this game.
So, but I think what I'm going to say is I think this game is not going to be high scoring, which means it's going to come down to who can generate more of the really big explosive plays. And I think for Philly, that's got to come in the pass game. And Detroit, counterintuitively, that's got to come in the run game. You are going to need some of those huge runs Jahmyr Gibbs is known for if you want to be able to keep up with Philly.
Yeah, it's the star power in this game. Like, just very quickly, just listen to this, Ziggy. I guess just off the top of my head, you got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. That's the Eagles' offense. Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Goff, Laporta, Sewell, Hutchinson, Jalen Carter, Brian Branch, Mitchell, DeJean, Kirby Joseph. I mean, right? Hutchinson. You could go on, and I think I said him all right, but you could go on and on. This is as good as it gets. As far as NFC matchups, as far as NFL matchups. And I can't wait. As we said before, the line is Philly -2.5 right now. They're hosting this one. Feels like this could be, this is a great spot for Detroit. If they win this game, hard not to think they're going to win the NFC North, just looking ahead. Who you got?
I said it during our preview of Andy. I will say it again because I think it is true. The Eagles are cowards. Their play calling is cowardly. Jalen Hurts is cowardly. This is a coward organization. The Detroit Lions are the absolute opposite of that. So if you like conservative play calling, you should favor the Eagles in this game. I do not. I think that winning tough games on the road requires being aggressive, maybe even a little bit reckless. And you just know that Detroit is going to be up for this game. They're going to make the aggressive calls they need. And I think that their offense is going to be able to get it done on 4th down. So I'm going to take the Lions to win. I think that the Dan Campbell mentality is what you need to win games like this. I know I like that more than you do. But right this week, at least, I think it's going to serve him well. And the Lions beat Philly in Philly.
No, I like the Dan Campbell mentality. I do. I think that that's a point of contention we have because it's particular situations. I would say 85% of the time I'm with Dan Campbell. That 15% of the time, though, can be really costly and has been a few times for them. But man, I just think Jalen Carter is going to have a big game. And that's the one thing that's making me want to lean Philly. I'm going to pick Detroit, but I'm really concerned about the Lions' interior line being able to hold up against these Philly tackles. And if they can't do that, that's when Goff makes mistakes. That's when things can get off the tracks for the Lions. I'm gonna pick Detroit, but I think it's a good line too.
I think this is going to be a close game.
Yeah, these are two really good teams. I just think Detroit, there's something weird with Philly going on. This feels more like, they're in this weird stage of, 3 years ago, they go to the Super Bowl, then they have the year, great start, collapse, bad locker room culture. Last year, dominant Super Bowl. This year, again, great start.
Feels like they're back on that cycle.
But yeah, it's just something feels off.
The Packers win was not a good win.
No,
they beat the Packers in Lambeau, which is nice, but they looked horrible doing it.
It feels like there's no camaraderie there. It feels like they all hate each other. And I know that's not the case, but it's just, it's not, I don't think it's a a close locker room right now. I could be wrong, but all right, I'm going to go Lions too. We'll wrap it up there. Again, we'll have a Vikings, Bears, Packers, Giants prediction out. The Week 11 prediction episode coming out Friday morning with Jack and Ziggy and I. Power rankings, game picks. It'll be great. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you listened to all 3 episodes today, that's awesome. If you haven't, go check out the other 2. We'll see you soon.